Today we're going to replace the burners and igniters on my Viking oven. We had some issues with this thing in the past. It's not the most reliable. Had to replace these spark igniters, whatever they're called, and the spark module that's in here. It used to just keep clicking and not spark, so replace that. It seems to work a little bit better, but it's not perfect. But today we are replacing the igniters and the burners on the oven. I noticed an issue a little while ago. When I turned on the oven, there was this weird blowing sound, and now the oven just doesn't seem to be getting as hot. This oven's really easy to take apart. You just take out the racks, little side support beams, just swing out, pull them out. The bottom plate, whatever you want to call it, you just lift that out. And then we see the two burner tubes and igniters. So while investigating what was going on, I turned on the oven. You can see both igniters getting hot, and although I don't have it on camera here, both tubes, burner tubes, would light, and then the one on the left would go out, so I knew something was wrong. Also, towards the bottom of the burner tubes, there was this weird rust, kind of a protrusion at the bottom of both, and that didn't look normal, so I knew that must be an issue as well. You'll see a close-up here of the burner tube after I removed it. When investigating what was wrong, I looked at the burner tubes. And look at this, towards the bottom, looks like they're all rusted out. They're definitely not supposed to look like this. So the burner tubes definitely needed to be replaced. The igniters, when I tested them, they got hot, they got red. Wasn't sure if they needed to be replaced or not, but I figured since I was going to have it all apart, might as well replace those as well. The burner tubes were a little more than $100 a piece, while the igniters were like $20-25 each. Purchased both items from Amazon. I believe you can get them on eBay as well, or there's some restaurant supply stores online. All you'll need for this job is a basic screwdriver. A drill helps as well. You don't need one, but a drill helps. I purchased this little guy on Amazon as well because there's some tight spaces when you take off the front valence piece. It's tough to get to. This would also help if you are just replacing the igniters, as the screws on those would be tough to get to. You're going to have to remove this lower valence piece. There's two screws for this on each side, one up top, one down below. They're kind of tough to get to. You'll have to get a small screwdriver, but as you can see, once you remove it, all the wiring for the igniters and some brackets for the burner tubes are available. It looks like there's just a couple screws in there. Shouldn't be too hard. We'll see what happens. Remember to unplug your oven before digging into any of the wires down there. Disassembly. So if you are just replacing the igniters and not the burner tubes, there are two screws holding each igniter to the burner tube. You'll have to remove those, unplug the wires, and then slide the igniters towards the rear of the oven. You can remove those. If you are replacing the burner tubes and the igniters, it's much easier to keep the igniters in place and just remove the brackets for the burner tubes. There is one bracket towards the rear of the oven for each burner tube with two screws holding it in place. There is also a bracket under the front valence which holds it in place. And then when the burner tube connects to the gas spigot or whatever, it kind of rests on that. That's it. It's pretty simple. Also be sure to mark your wires. Very important. The rest is pretty easy. Whether you just did the igniters or did the burner tubes and igniters together, you're pretty much just going to do the opposite of what you just did. So if you just did the igniters, of course, screw those back into place. If you did the burner tubes and the igniters, secure the igniters to the burner tubes first while they're out of the oven. It'll be a lot easier that way. And then slide in the burner tubes from the oven. It's really not that hard. Be sure to route the wires correctly too before plugging those back in. Make sure they're not in contact with anything or in any weird spots. Once you've ensured that, you can plug those back into place. All right, so we're ready to test. Make sure everything is tight and in place. Make sure nothing is in the way of the burner tubes or the igniters, of course. Once you're ready and comfortable that things are good, give it a go. So we see the igniters getting hot here immediately. Before, when I would do this, it would take a while before they would get glowing hot. So this is much faster than last time. We see one of the burner tubes firing, and we see the other one firing right after. This is a good sign. I'll let it run for a while just to make sure there's nothing wrong before you put everything back together. But it looks like we're good to go.